Good evening, my name's Steve Wraith. Welcome to NUFC Matters, and as usual, I'm joined by
Malcolm MacDonald.
And I'm John Gibson.
Hi lads, how are you doing?
Not very good. I think it's so depressing.
It is.
What's happened over the past couple of weeks. And I am not getting anything of substance coming out of the club that things are going to get any better.
I mean, my prediction of 1-1 couldn't have been like
further
wider
from
the
the
mark.
truth. No. I mean, I think one of the worrying things, Steve, was that the white flag was raised, and it was raised so early in the game. I mean, normally when you go down to 10 men, afterwards you say, well, that was a game changer. And theoretically, at 1-0 down, you could say that you had a chance of coming back. But the reality is, Newcastle were beaten when it was 11v11, without a shadow of doubt. Without a shadow of doubt.
Sure. What went wrong then, Mal? In your mind, what went wrong at Leicester?
Well, for one, I'm watching good defenders like Paul Dummett, and he's an expert at defending.
Yeah,
that's his strength, and he looked so ragbaggish. He was all over the place. He wasn't picking people up like he normally did, and I was watching across the line, and I'm thinking, are they actually not marking purposely?
Yeah.
You know, so that Vardy and other Leicester players were in between two defenders, and instead of one defender just saying, right, I'll have him, the next defender going and picking up the next forward, that they were it was almost as if the Newcastle back line was playing to have the opposing players in between two of the Newcastle players, and it was utterly bizarre for me watching it, and I'm saying, just move to the left, you know, and I finished up, and I'm screaming at my television.
Yeah.
The keeper said, of course, hasn't he, since to Bavlik, that they couldn't handle going to a flat back four where they used to playing with three central defenders, and that they found that difficulty. That may well be so, but it doesn't excuse everything that went on.
Hold on a minute, John. They couldn't play with three central centre halves.
But this is what he said. This is what he said was one of the trouble.
But it's a load of nonsense. And if the players are saying such stupid things, it tells me that they haven't got a clue what they're supposed to be doing out there. That what is the game plan?
Yeah.
I'm trying to see it, and the thing that I kept seeing was, don't mark their forwards.
I mean, one of the things that's also going to concern me, if we go to the other end of the pitch and we're letting in 5 at one end and we can't score at the other end, one of the things that bothers me is that Newcastle have spent an awful lot of money on assembling what is going to be their front three eventually, and that is, you know, 40 million for Joe Linton, 21 million for Almiron, and 16 million for Saint Maximum once he is fit to go in. They should be the front three. But how are they going to play them? When these three were signed, what is their ideal position? How did Newcastle United visualise them dovetailing? Because I don't think Joe Linton is an orthodox centre forward in the role. He has been asked to play Rondon's role, which is up front, on your own, hold the ball up till the cavalry eventually get there from 80 yards away, charging up the field. That is not his game.
No, he's too stationary.
Almiron, he doesn't play in the box. Almiron is like a puppy chasing a paper bag around the park on a windy day. Now, where are you going to play him? Is he left wing? Is he right wing? Does he play 10? Does he play as attacking midfielder? And and we're putting a lot of hope on the Saint, because we haven't seen him, and we've got to have some hope somewhere. But what position exactly is his best position? Now, the scouts that scouted those 3 players have got to think beyond, isn't this a good player that I'm witnessing when I'm watching him today, and got to think, what role can he play in the current Newcastle side? Yeah. How will he fit in? How will we fit in other players with him? Yeah. And I don't see any thought of how Almiron and Joe Linton are going to play together, and then the other guy, when he's fit, which is about now. Yeah. And quite frankly, I mean, when you listen to Steve Bruce talking about Joe Linton when he saw him last season, and he had nothing to do with the transfer. Big Joe. Oh, that's a guy, Big Joe, and Big Andy. But when he starts talking about Big Joe, he talks about seeing him play for his German club on the left side of the front 3, which he did do there. What is his exact position? I know what it isn't, and that's the job they're asking the poor lad to do now. Now, whether he's good enough for it, he looks as if there's a good player in there, but at the moment it isn't shown. And I think they're square pegs and round holes.
I agree. Paul Saunders is asking, is it time Almiron got dropped this weekend? There was rumours of it happening last weekend.
Yes, there was. I mean, I would say yes, because, and I think the lad needs to come out of the firing line, because you look at him and he's almost like a bloke on death row. Yeah. I mean, you know, there's blind panic in his eyes.
There is. There is, and it's quite frightening to actually witness it, isn't it?
You feel sorry to us.
Yes. I mean, you want to see a look of determination, but I mean, but you're seeing, when you see
16, 17 games, and we know he hasn't scored a goal, but he hasn't been.
In all that time, John, he's had two shots
on goal.
Yeah, and, 2 shots on target.
And no assists, by the way.
And the second one was the one against Brighton, which he just hit the keeper.
Let's look at the sending off. Paul Saunders has asked again, do you think Hayden had any other choice but to go in for the tackle like he did? So
there's always a choice.
Look at that. And was it a sending off? My automatic reaction was, in this day and age, yes, it is.
Oh,
it's
absolute sending off.
In the past, you know, it probably would have been
there were
allowed.
There were some tackles like that you got away with in the 70s, but there were other tackles exactly the same that a referee would have sent you off for.
I mean, in today's climate, Malcolm, there was absolutely no question that he was going to be off.
Absolutely.
His feet were off the ground and he went in. It was a potential leg breaker.
And he was saying, but I've played the ball. But his foot was still going up after he made contact with the ball.
Yeah.
And he would. And
it doesn't matter if you played the ball if you're going to break somebody's leg.
Just under the knee. You know,
sadly,
that's a leg breaker. It could be a leg breaker, and
he did have to go.
And the referee was, I think, within his rights to send him off.
I think Hayden was the only guy on the pitch at the time that believed he shouldn't be sent off. He couldn't shut up about it.
Absolutely.
But I mean, everybody else, and after the game, everybody within Newcastle admitted.
But why did he do it? Was it desperation? Because Newcastle, they were 1-0 down at the time. Yeah. But the game was so beyond Newcastle, and it was, I think it was just a case of waiting for Leicester to score more goals, which eventually happened. It is one of those phenomena in the game where players just get into a sort of panic mode and they go beyond the extreme. Yeah. And in the end, they get themselves sent off. Well, was that the reason that Hayden got sent off?
I think he's always got that in him. Yeah. The capability of tackling like that, tackling wildly. I think that is always within his game. Yeah. I think there was frustration. The game was going away from Newcastle. The ball was going away from Hayden in this particular sense.
I understand that, John. But if it happened somewhere around Newcastle's penalty area to stop a scoring chance from the opposition, okay. But this was on the edge of the Leicester penalty area. You know, it wasn't any danger for Newcastle. What are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, you're surprised to still see him at the club because remember last season it was all about he was.
I mean, staggered, Steve. From the point, this is totally a different reason. From the point of view, is that we were told all last season that because of personal family situation, which we all understood and sympathised with, that he wanted to leave because of his little one, and we thoroughly understood that. Rafa kept playing him regardless of that. He stuck with him every week. The fans took to him because he didn't shirk the job even though he wanted to leave. Some people stuck their hand when they wanted to leave and stopped playing. We've seen that all over the country. I don't mean with Newcastle United, I mean anywhere in football. And that happens. He didn't do that. Newcastle fans really appreciated that and gave him a warm reception last season, which he was totally touched about. And at the end, he said, you know, how terrific it was that Newcastle fans stuck by him and chanted his name on the last day. But he said his goodbyes to the Newcastle fans on the pitch on the last day. Then all of a sudden, Rafa's gone, and all of a sudden the whole situation's changed. And the next thing we hear, without explanation, is he's quite happy to stay and talk about a longer contract. Without any explanation for the change of mind, whether it was the change of manager, whether it was a change of personal circumstances within his family, or what it was. But all of a sudden it had totally changed and he was ready to be part. So from that point of view, I'm absolutely staggered.
But all his teammates around him, it's a bit unsettling, isn't it? You know, they've got a player in. Well, they've got a player in their midst who just wanted away.
Well, I mean, that happens, but that happens at every club, doesn't it? And it's a problem when they get naughty about it and stack their hand and try, you know, don't play well. And we've seen that with some of the very big name players elsewhere in the country. He, in fairness to him, never did that. He never stuck his hand last season at all, although he wanted away. He never stuck his hand.
No, 100%. Let's look at the aftermath of the game. Lascelles came out in front of the TV cameras with a thoroughly miserable face. Gave the usual excuses and, we're going to have to change things for the fans. It's unacceptable. Admitted putting the white flag up. Of course, Steve Bruce did as well. Interesting footage coming out from people's mobile phones, as is the norm nowadays, of Lascelles being confronted outside the ground by fans.
Correct.
And saying, what do you want us to do? Benitez is gone. I mean, is Lascelles the right person, do you think, to captain the team under this circumstance? Or we're seeing the frailties return? Because my view is simple, really. Lascelles was protected by the way that Rafa organised the team. Now that Rafa's organisation is gone and we have this chaos that's ensued, because I personally feel, I think Steve Bruce is used to playing in one formation. He's walked into a club with no wing-backs. He's used to playing 3-5-2 and having wing-backs bombing on. He's come into a club where we don't actually have wing-backs. And I think Lascelles' frailties are being, laid bare. Is he the right person? Rafa dropped him a few times as well.
Yes, he did.
When his head was down, he dropped him a few times.
And he was captain at the time.
Exactly, and he took the captaincy off him and then gave him it back when he thought he was ready. Are we seeing the old frailties return?
I think we probably are, Steve, but at the same time, outside of perhaps Shaw, the obvious one that jumps to mind. You could drop anyone in the Newcastle United team, including Lascelles, but everyone else as well. I think Shaw's possibly the one standout guy this season that's produced some sort of regular consistency in this side. But anybody else, if he went out, wouldn't surely have the guts to knock on the manager's door and say, what the heck are you doing dropping me? I'm quality.
Shelby, potentially.
Because...
he'd be the one person who would do it, I think. Richie,
stupidly.
Richie's probably a captain in the making, but he's injured at the moment, isn't he?
Richie, it's amazing because he's not a wing-back, he's a winger, but played wing-back, learnt the job, and he has been missed without a shadow of it.
And I would say, I would put the name of Paul Dummett forward.
For skipper.
For skipper. But not at the moment, because even Paul Dummett, he's looking a bad defender at the moment. He's not getting to grips with his game. And so
there's bigger problems than who's going to be skipper, though, isn't it?
Yes.
The whole team's in a mess.
Because they say that the players keep saying, well, we didn't understand quite the system that we were supposed to play. what system was it? What was it that they were being asked by Steve Bruce to do?
Yeah.
Because I didn't see anything of any construction whatsoever, certainly not against Leicester, but let's go to the week before, the Brighton game. I didn't see anything there either. And if Brighton had actually taken one of their chances, they too probably would have gone on to finish with a 5-0 victory.
Yeah.
So it would have been 2 in a row. But it was only Brighton's scoring frailties that kept it at 0-0.
Talking about Lascelles and the fans at Leicester, and certainly, by the way, the confrontation which we saw on the phones of Lascelles with the fans wasn't anything like the famous one, which was Keegan with the fans after he sold Andy Cole.
Yeah.
But that was Keegan stick with me, do it, and I'll get you out as my Jove, didn't he, with Shearer and Ferdinand.
100%.
But the interesting thing for me down there was the only people that had any credit and the only black and white performers of any note weren't on the pitch, they were in the stand. The fans were absolutely unbelievably fabulous throughout the whole game. They never stopped chanting right up to 5-0 in a show of whether it was defiance with the owner, whether it was just we're Geordies, or whether it was almost not don't care, because by Jove they do care. But it was the inevitable was happening before their eyes. But the fans were absolutely, quite incredible. I mean, they do surprise me quite on a regular basis, but that was
amazing,
absolutely fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
But that tells me that the fans, that they're not going to blame the players, because they're seeing this as not the players' fault at all. That there is something seriously wrong with the way in which the players are being organised and
right,
what they're
Malcolm,
being asked to do.
Whether you blame Mike Ashley at the top, and of course you do for the whole situation with the club, because he's the fella that's setting the mood. Whether you blame Steve Bruce, and of course you've got to, because he does the tactics and the organising. But you've also got to blame the players. You can't let them get away with running up white flags and say, well, it's just Ashley's fault and it's just Bruce's fault.
No.
And it's him behind the goal and it's him over there. It's the players as well.
But as a manager and his coaches, what you have to do is find the best way of playing to get the best out of your players. What I saw the last 2 games was a system that's only finding the worst. And there wasn't even a 5-minute spark in either of those games that suggested that something might improve. As you work at it, there was nothing at all, and I found it quite frightening, to be honest.
It was
because then it was said, then the system was there were changes made to it during the game. I didn't see any of that either, and it was such a shambles, the whole thing from start to finish, that even quality defenders like Paul Dummett, and he is a terrific defender, knows defending inside out. I would rely on that guy every day of my life when it comes to defending, and he was just and he was lost.
But shouldn't Newcastle be as good as Leicester? On the size of a club, on the potential, on the money situation. You look, if you see Newcastle playing Manchester City or Liverpool, you may well say, hey, look, we don't expect to be them. But why can't we expect to be Leicester City? And when you look at the way Leicester City played and can play, I mean, wonderful. Vardy, proper centre forward. The manager's done a terrific job there, etc., etc. We should be capable of, as a club, of competing with the Leicesters, the Bournemouths, the Burnleys, and the Evertons,
Sure.
But yeah,
I happened to look at the league table and I saw where Bournemouth are sitting, and then I went all the way down to the bottom, and there was Newcastle. And I think, what on earth is happening at Newcastle United for that?
And it's an absolute disgrace. You haven't put a Leicester City shirt on tonight, Stephen.
Dunstan tonight. We've got a big FA Cup game on Saturday, which all Newcastle fans can get along to. 3 o'clock kick off on a Saturday. That's a rarity.
Yes.
Obviously, there's other North East teams playing in the FA Cup as well. But yeah, get along to Dunstan. We're playing Colne. So we've got a good chance of getting through. Colne will bring a good set of supporters, so hopefully that'll be a big game.
And I mean, you are a Dunstan fan genuinely.
Yeah,
you haven't just abdicated because of Newcastle United.
I think it's, it's just, I had a talk in last night at Dunstan with Gavin Peacock, and we were talking. He doesn't see many games. He lives in Cagliari, obviously, and I think they see 3 or 4 games out there a year of Premiership football because of the TV. And he was saying to me, "What's it like?" He said, "I did see the Leicester game because I was in the country, and we were talking about it." And he said that the crowds are dropping. It's alarming. He says, that's probably the first time since I first came to the club that we've had low crowds at St James's Park. He said so. He says the Ashley effect is now starting to take shape, and I can see that from miles away. And I said, "Yeah," I says, "You're right." But he was saddened by that. But he was, I said, "Look," I said, it benefits clubs like this. I said, Dunstan, North Shields, you name it, any of these northeastern clubs have gained support because hardened Newcastle fans have just walked away, and they're going to non-league and they're getting better entertainment. Malcolm goes to North Shields on a regular basis, and
I should be there on Saturday.
Yeah,
and
it's great. Getting back to Paul Dummett, he came out today and said that he was urging Newcastle fans to get behind the team and get them to the ground on Sunday. Now, I understand the players are contracted.
It's politically correct.
They have to do what they're told.
Yeah, correct.
And I mean, as a fan, you do want the ground on your side.
I understand that, but what Paul Dummett and the rest of his defenders have got to do is to get it put right. And if they're being instructed in the wrong way, then they have to confront the instructor and say, "You've got to stop this. We've got to play the way we are most comfortable to get the very best out of ourselves."
Yeah.
And I'm watching an international player in Shah.
Yeah.
And he's going, what? And he keeps looking around, and he's just got this look of surprise or horror on his face because it's all so wrong.
Yeah.
Steve Bruce was a centre half in his playing career, and he should know better than most what's required, what's necessary, what players need to, because to really play well, you've got to feel comfortable in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you can see that they're far, far, far from comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's mentally disturbing, and that will always finish up with a stupid tackle somewhere along the line. And we saw that last Sunday against Leicester.
What did you make of Dummett's comments today? I mean, it's not a great surprise, is it? I mean,
no, it isn't, because at some stage, if you, as a journalist, if I, as a journalist, go to a player and ask him a question, he is going to toe the party line.
Yeah.
Or support his manager, or do what the club thinks, because they pay his wages.
Yeah.
And when he goes in the next day, if he's slagged or criticised the way the team's playing, his manager's going to really hammer him, and he could well be out the side.
Yeah.
I'm not talking particularly about Dummett and Bruce. I'm generalising.
Yeah.
So no, it wasn't a surprise to hear, and the rallying call to fans to come and support us. They've got to want the crowd behind them at home to give them half a chance. I mean, Newcastle haven't won at home this season, and I keep hearing from Steve Bruce about the difficult start of the season in terms of fixtures and the great sides we play, etc., etc. But we've played Watford at home and Brighton at home and Norwich away.
Yeah.
Now, they are sides that if you're going to stay up, you get a big points return from those sides. We've got 2 points out of 9 from those sides. that's what's worrying me, as well as the capitulation, total capitulation at Leicester, is that, you know, we've played 2 sides at home, the last 2 home games, which we should beat comfortably if we're going to be comfortable.
It's a category A game at the weekend as well, and we've got tickets going on general sale. It's never been known.
No,
Usually season
absolutely.
tickets holders only.
Just to follow on what John said, I still can't get over the fact that Watford were actually below Newcastle and outplayed them.
Oh.
They were the better side. They were the better footballing side. They played in very similar formations.
Brighton outplayed us.
And yes,
outplayed us.
Absolutely. And that's worrying because Newcastle, much the same team. All right, there's been 3 or 4 changes, but the nucleus is there from last season, and what a finish it was to the season. It was absolutely terrific, and you want that to roll on.
Yeah.
It's anything but. It's unrecognisable to what it has been.
I mean, the worrying thing, and we don't want to tip viewers over the edge where they go away and commit harry-carry, but, you know, we look back and we say, the one shining light this season was to win 1-0 at Spurs, and wasn't that a terrific result? Yes, it was. Wasn't it a good performance? Yes, it was. But are we... 2 things immediately strike me now with hindsight. One is that result was a one-off fluke for Newcastle United, and the second is Spurs aren't the team that they were. And have we not just seen that? They've lost 7-2 at home in the Champions League. Might well be Bayern Munich, who are an outstanding club and an outstanding side. But 7-2 at home, the worst home result in the history of Tottenham Hotspur. And a week before that, they got knocked out the League Cup by League 2 Colchester. So perhaps it wasn't such a wonderful result, Newcastle's there, as it first looked.
Let's talk takeover. We seem to do this every week at the minute. Peter Kenyon and his bag of tricks. He's back again, and we're seeing headlines every day about Mike Ashley today. I think has come out and said he's the man. He's the man with a plan. He's the guy who could take Newcastle on to the next level. I still fail to see if those figures are correct that I mentioned last week that he's wanting to borrow money off Mike Ashley. I mean, on the show last week we discussed it, didn't we, when we were at Scotswood, that the figures that allegedly were quoted, John, 125 million is what he's going to give Mike Ashley. He then wants to borrow 175 million off Mike Ashley to make it up to 300 million to buy the club. And then he said he might have a spare 50 million to put into the transfer window in January.
I saw that.
So how would you feel as a lifelong Newcastle fan who's actually seen we lift a trophy? How would you feel about Peter Kenyon running our club, John?
It doesn't fill me full of enthusiasm whatsoever. Also, I don't believe he will be running our club.
No.
I think it's hot air again. I think Kenyon is like Amanda Staveley. They're both desperate to get their hands on a Premier League football club, but they haven't the money personally to do it, and they're trying to scratch round other people to come in with them and buy a football club. But there's not a cat and hell's chance. And also, if you are going to buy a football club, you don't talk about it in public before you do it.
No.
You do it and then talk about it. You don't talk about it, you don't leak information like both those people have done, and the Sheikh as well, by the way, was leaking information into the public domain. If you are serious and have got the clout, you didn't see Mansour when he was buying Manchester City talk about it before he did it.
Even the senior people within the club knew nothing about it until the deal was done.
Interestingly done by Staveley, though. Interestingly, that deal was done by Staveley.
Yes, it was. But she was organising it for somebody with money, and she wasn't going to be involved in the running of it. She was if she'd get it in Newcastle, and Kenyon would be if he got in at Newcastle. I'll believe I'll believe it when it happens. And when it's talked about so much, is an absolute guarantee for me that it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree 100% on that. I think, we'll know about it when we wake up one morning.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I want to buy your house, but I'd like you to lend me the money to do it.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay, Mal, no problem. Yeah. Well, that's what we're dealing with,
That's
isn't it?
basically it, isn't it?
But I mean, I get bored with talking about it now because, quite frankly, it ain't going to happen.
Well, no wonder that Ashley thinks that's a great deal, because it means he still have his fingers in the pie at Newcastle, and we'll still have all that horrible advertising
for 3 years, wasn't it?
Yeah,
exactly.
That
was
what
I saw.
You kind of kidder, can you?
No.
Okay, let's get on to the Man United game at the weekend. Now, it's daunting, I think, for everybody. It's a big fixture. It's one we all look for, I suppose, with us not having Sunderland in the division.
And I get the feeling that Newcastle is just what Solskjaer wants at the moment for his
Well,
team.
funny enough, I was going to say, Malcolm, and I do follow totally what you're saying there.
Yeah.
What I was going to say was flipping the coin the other way, and that any other season bar this one, this would be the time to play Manchester United.
Absolutely.
A good Newcastle side.
But
They've never won.
It's
They've
the
never won.
reverse.
But they've never won a game away from home. This season. They had to go to penalties to knock Rochdale out of the League Cup. I mean, Solskjaer come in baby-faced. He's haggard now. He's haggard.
Yes.
They are. It's really between two deadbeats. We are more dead than them, but it's two deadbeats. This is a fixture where Newcastle and Manchester United used to finish successive seasons 1 and 2 in the table. Man U top and us second. Now you've got us in a huge mess, and Manchester United a little bit better off, but not. Under normal circumstances, we would be rubbing our hands to play Manchester United. This is the best chance of beating them. Under these circumstances, you're right, they'll be rubbing their hands saying, well, at least we've got Newcastle this weekend.
Yes, absolutely. And I really do feel that Newcastle can't afford a third nightmare of a match, a nightmare performance.
Yeah.
And so they've got to seek to turn it. That means that in this week, the defence has had to be organised and know exactly what it's going to do. They know who they're going to play against.
Yeah.
They know the kind of football that Manchester United play, and they have to be absolutely organised to play against them. And it's. And so this week, it's such an important week out in the training
But
field.
aren't we saying that every week now? The more it goes on without us winning, the more it goes on. You know,
we had a day off on Monday. I mean, I couldn't believe that.
Yes. Oh, well,
Did they?
You give them a day off
Well,
as a reward for the 5-0 hammering at Leicester.
which is the exact opposite to when against Norwich, when we were last horrendous.
Yeah.
They come in on the Sunday, I think.
Yeah.
This time it's the other way on. But I mean, you look at Newcastle. You've got a defence that let in 5 on Saturday and let in 3 at Norwich.
Yeah.
So you think, can they hold out and keep a clean sheet at home on Sunday?
Yeah.
And you've got an attack that can't score. Can they score the goal that's needed to win the game, or maybe it's to get a draw? And you have lost an awful lot of hope. But I mean. And then we got Chelsea away.
I've got to say, the flip side of them not going in to do training on Monday was a day less of instruction from Steve Bruce in his
Yeah, reverse logic, eh?
Yeah.
This is a match between two Manchester United absolute legends.
Yeah.
In Steve Bruce and Solskjaer. The only trouble is, for both clubs' point of view, they're legends as players and not legends as managers.
He did come out with some credit, Steve Bruce, to me, though, when he's referred to Man United on television. He's called them Manchester and he's called Newcastle, United. So that does, it's one of those bugbears where United...
Is that where being a Geordie comes into play
it's from
for
Wall's
Steve?
End, It's from Wall's End. Okay, let's get the part out of the way that we all dread, the predictions. John, what's your prediction for the weekend?
Oh dear. I'm going for a 2-1 defeat, the best I can hope for and we all hope for something, is that we somehow get a 1-1 draw. The heart is wants that, I believe, that we'll lose. I can't believe any other, but I want to get a 1-1 draw. I can't even contemplate winning.
Okay, Malcolm?
I really can't see Newcastle scoring from what I've seen, unless there are changes.
Yeah.
And if they were to play Carroll up front with Gale off him, then I think there would be a danger being shown to the Manchester defence. But what there is now,
Go on then.
it's like playing
What's the
against
score?
puppies. I can't see Newcastle scoring. Manchester United will, and I'll go for a 2-0 Newcastle defeat.
2-0 defeat, yeah. My heart ruled my head last week. I went with the 1-1 draw. I mean, bearing in mind I'd been to the Cup game. That's my excuse. I did think Newcastle played well. You know, we had a reserve team out.
Yeah, and they more or less had a first team out.
Yeah, and they took us to penalties. So, you know, I went in with that game with faith. Maybe the sending off changed it, although we were up against it when you know, Hayden got sent off. Man United at home, I can only say a defeat, I'm afraid. I think there'll be something about the team. I think the likes of Dummett and that, you know, there will have been a players' inquiry. I'm going to go for a 2-0 defeat as well. I do think Newcastle will always struggle to score at the moment, especially with Richie out the team. Can't see Newcastle scoring.
He's a big miss, by the way.
He's a big miss. Yeah.
And I can just see a 2-0 defeat. So we'll see what next Thursday brings. We'll have a post-mortem or a celebration potentially next Thursday. Don't forget you can subscribe to us on YouTube. Just search NUFC Matters. Some great videos up there from our night last week with Kevin Keegan, Peter Beardsley, Chris Waddle and Terry McDermott. And I am going to dedicate this show to my grandmother who passed away today, God bless her, Celia Green, age 93. She had a good innings, but I'm going to dedicate today's show to her. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Subscribe to YouTube. We're going to play out tonight with Smooth and Terrell.